Hey guys, welcome back. It's Friday. We're sitting on the spotlight. Jason Berard, Landon Hood. On today's episode, we have an extremely interesting guest. We're excited to have her on the show. She is a serial entrepreneur, medical futurist, very tough to pronounce last name, so I'm going to go for it. Robin Farmanfarmaian. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the spotlight, Robin. Did I say the name right?
It was perfect. You mispronounced
Amazing.
Robin, however.
Oh yeah, he always stumbles. That's the tough one. That's the tough of the two.
Awkward.
So yeah, no, thanks so much for coming on, Robin. We read your bio, and we understand, you have a really interesting background that led you into the the medical industry, the medicine industry, and being a futurist. And so, when you call yourself a futurist, what do you mean by that?
So I talk about and predict what the next 2, 5, 10, and 20 years are going to look like in medicine, and how technology will be intersecting it and absolutely positively disrupting it.
Cool. And Landon alluded to some of the challenges that you faced a little bit younger in your life, and how that's kind of led into your career now. So what were some of those? There were some misdiagnoses and everything like that. So can you walk us through that and sort of what's led you to where you are today?
Sure. So at the age of 16, I was misdiagnosed with an autoimmune disease, ended up resulting in 43 hospitalizations,
Wow.
6 major surgeries, and I've had 3 organs removed. So at the age of 26, my doctors, and I remember I've been through like Dartmouth, Hitchcock, Harvard, Mass General, Elliott. I mean, there were pretty much all the hospitals on the East Coast. And none of my doctors actually realized it was a misdiagnosis. So at the age of 26, they said, oh, we took out your organs, you're cured because we removed the affected organs. Now you're just going to be on, very high dose methadone or potentially like a morphine pump surgically implanted in your spine for the rest of your life. And I was like, I am 26 years old and you're telling me I'm going to be on high dose methadone for the rest of my life? No.
Yeah.
So I went home and I fired all of my doctors.
And so, okay, so then with the misdiagnosis, were they just, everyone was wrong?
Everyone was wrong, including the pathologist who actually had my colon in his hands. So they took out my large intestine completely when I was 19 years old, freshman in college. The pathologist actually had it and still managed to misdiagnose me. Finally, at the age of 29, I got diagnosed correctly and put on Remicade, and it literally was a medication that changed my life within 24 hours. At that point, I had been a shut-in for about 2 or 3 years. I could go, I was on some boards and stuff like that, but I couldn't hold down a full-time job because the pain was so extreme.
Wow.
Finally, I put on Remicade, and literally 24 hours later, I went from being someone too sick to function at all to being this, like holding down 4 jobs, going around the world, being a professional speaker. And so it was a game changer. So my taking control of my life saved my life, and it gave me back my life.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so you found the right doctor who was able to diagnose you correctly, and
Yep.
and so you can talk a little bit about how those experiences sort of inspired what you're doing today and what you hope to accomplish.
Well, I want to get the message out that patients really need to take control and be the center. So I talk about the patient as the CEO of the healthcare team, and just like a corporation where you have a CEO and they have, fantastic vice presidents, support staff, board members, advisors, you enable them to do their job, which they're great at, right? They report back to you as CEO, and together as a team, you decide on a direction for the company to go into. But as CEO, you are the one who is ultimately responsible the vision is carried out, and that the company overall is successful. So my message to patients and physicians everywhere, why should being a patient be any different, right?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Oftentimes it seems like you might listen to one person, but he's not the be all end all. And yeah.
But it's funny that you say that, because as a patient in a hospital, you're not necessarily at anyone's mercy, but you almost feel that way. You're just like, well, they're the doctor, so like,
they've got you down. They've got you.
Well,
sort of
I would just
vulnerable.
expect that they would know, like, I'm not going to do the.
They're omniscient.
What's that?
You expect that they're omniscient. That you
Yeah.
go in feeling victimized because you're victimized by your body, you're victimized by your insurance company because the bills are so high, from the hospital system, from the waiting rooms, from everything. So you go in there already feeling victimized, most specifically by your own body, right? And then
Yes.
you're going into this person who you feel, and this is part of our society and just the way healthcare has worked, feel like is a god or omniscient or the one who's totally in control. And so it's this weird dynamic. And I'm saying, get rid of that dynamic. Physicians are not gods, except for, of course, a couple of surgeons here and there.
Right. Working their magic. Yeah.
So just change that dynamic. And with that one message, we are going to dramatically shift and improve outcomes.
No,
Wow.
Absolutely. And so you mentioned in our earlier conversations that you're working in the area of tissue engineering and organ preservation. Can you talk about some of the latest advances?
What is that?
And exactly.
What is that?
Break down for our viewers here, because not a lot of our viewers have a strong medical background. Could you break down a little bit about those two things?
Such an exciting area of medicine. So I'm co-founder and on the board of directors, previously executive director of the Organ Preservation Alliance. And we're a nonprofit. We catalyze breakthroughs in tissue engineering and cryopreservation by working with not only the top cryobiologists in the world, but we ran workshops at the White House, the OSTP, DARPA for the Department of Defense, and worked with the Department of Defense and got over $100 million worth of grants launched for scientists working on this particular problem. Now, what that means is, if you think about a heart outside the body, if you have a motorcycle accident, say in Florida, that heart will only last 4 to 6 hours outside of the body, right? So that means 80% of donor hearts actually go unused. Wow. Because they do not have time to get a patient into the hospital prepped, or someone from California, say the best match for that particular heart is someone who's a 6-hour flight away. There is zero chance that patient is going to be able to get that heart. So we need a way to preserve these vascular complex organs between taking them out of the donor body and putting them into the recipient body. But secondly, tissue engineering, right? So that will eradicate the need for any type of rejection drugs, because it would be an organ built from the patient's stem cells, right? Okay. And so let me tell you kind of where that technology is right now. Currently, companies like Ergonovo, Celgene Therapeutics, Merck, they're all working on things like tissue engineering for tiny little sections of liver called liver assays, and kidneys, actually. Ergonovo was able to do a kidney assay. And ASSAY. What this means is they're tiny, tiny little pieces of liver that can be used in drug clinical trials. It's a big deal for pharma companies, right? No longer needing to test a medication on an animal or a human subject. You can first test it on a liver in the lab. Now, where we're seeing this, that's just the first step towards, actually growing fully vascularized organs. Right. Now, the barrier to entry on actually doing the vascular organs now is because of the weight of the organ collapses the vascular system, and it's very, very difficult to do all those little tiny capillaries and everything. So one of the solutions that some labs are working on is taking an existing organ, right, so from a donor body, decellularizing it, which means wash away all of these existing cells, leave the scaffolding in place and the vascular system in place, repopulate it with the patient's stem cells, and now you've got an organ that won't need anti-rejection drugs.
Okay.
Wow. So you create the organ outside, like you create an organ over here. For example, we had Danny Cabrera on the show last week or 2 weeks ago. And they've got BioBots, which is you put cells into this. I'll call it a machine. It was a robot essentially, and it builds. And they're hoping to do exactly that, right? When you have the right cells come in, you can build, for example, a kidney or a liver or even a heart, maybe a brain. Who knows how far we can go with it here with the right cells, and then you can put into, and then you wouldn't need the anti-resistant medication, so that it would be like your body created itself anyway. So when you put it in, it would just be like a perfect match replacement, right?
Exactly. But take it even one step further. And that technology is probably anywhere from 15 to 25 years out, right? Yep. And there's some headway being done with things like the vascular part of it with Jennifer Lewis's lab out of Harvard, that type of thing. But take it one step further. Imagine you have an ulcer or you have Crohn's disease or whatever. As soon as you get diagnosed, why treat it with a medication when you can just switch out your organ?
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
You mentioned the use of stem cells. Do you find that there's still a bit of a political, hoops that you have to jump through? Or there's still some obstacles in the United States in terms of using that technology? Or are you finding that there are advancements these days in being able to use them?
That's, I don't work in actually the lab, so I know peripherally like what's going on with that, but as I'm not an actual deep scientist. Right. We have made a lot of progress in that though.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by the stem cell, revolution that's kind of happened the last 10 years.
There's such backlash.
It's like we don't know much about it, but we just hope that there's backlash because obviously, certain reasons, but you just hope that what people say it can do, it can actually do. And
yeah, you should never get in the way of advancing, human health and advancing how to help people, right?
Yeah. So. What about the and I'm going to touch back on one of your LinkedIn articles from your futurist, I guess expectations. A diabetes technology revolution. What do you see as the future in diabetes in terms of monitoring glucose levels?
Oh, that is one of the most exciting areas as well, because it just impacts so many, many people. The way I see that is subcutaneous or sensors inside of blood vessels that will do continuous, accurate glucose monitoring so that you don't even know they're there. It's even one step beyond things like the contact lenses that Google or Medela Health are working on. And so imagine a world where you never have to prick your finger again. And then Google just patented, I think it was in November, it might have been December, a couple of things. Not only was a needleless blood draw, but the second application of that particular patent, or that second one, was a watch essentially that would do continuous. It would actually give you insulin, and you wouldn't even feel it or notice it was there. So it was a watch that would do your continuous monitoring, and when you needed the insulin, it would give it to you in these tiny micro needles, so you actually didn't even feel it going in.
Wow. Yeah, I know it's fascinating. Even where we've come from today, like where technology is exponential, right? So we've come so far today in something like diabetes monitoring glucose levels and everything like that. But what you're saying, and exactly, I saw that patent as well, that Google has the contact lenses that are solar powered. I mean, that's incredible. That what do you think? 5-10 years away?
If that.
Yeah.
They're putting a lot of money into it. A lot of that stuff is coming out of Verily. I have huge hopes for it. I'm a huge Google fan, and just the impact that they have and the things that they're concentrating on.
It's fascinating.
Well, they have as many resources as anybody right in the world, and it seems like they're using them in a good way, which is always nice to see. Don't be evil. It seems like they're prescribing to that motto.
What about so go now, and you speak quite a bit, right, and in public speaking and everything like that. So when you go to these conferences and everything like that, some people for our viewers, maybe they don't go to conferences, or maybe they want to get into public speaking. What's the biggest takeaway that you have? So when you go to these things, what's the biggest takeaway? Do you just feel so accomplished that you managed to get on stage and kill it, or is it the people that you met, or is it just the all-around experience, or what you learned? What's the biggest takeaway?
Wow. I love public speaking. To me, public speaking, getting on stage in front of 400 or 500 people, is the equivalent of me sitting in my living room and talking to a couple people over Skype. It's just natural to me, and I love it. And I love the reaction, especially when I do it for a lot of teenage women. So I've done a lot of speaking, and I'm doing one actually on Saturday for females between, I think, 7th and 10th grade. But I also went down to one of the poorest parts of Mexico, and to Juarez, and gave a talk to the surrounding 5 high schools and colleges. And it's really, really touching when they can see a female who's blonde, right, talking about deep technology on stage. It changes their lives. And some of these females have come up and actually told me that this was kind of an eye-opener, game changer, because they'd never seen a woman talk about technology, let alone on stage, right? So that the impact I have on the audience, that's the biggest takeaway.
Great. And you have a new book, The Patient as CEO, and I know you touched on a little bit about what that phrase means to you, and sort of taking ownership and taking power of your own body and your own life instead of listening to these omniscient doctors who may or may not know exactly what they're talking about.
Is the book out?
Is it? Yeah. Is it coming out yet?
Bestseller within 3 days of release. It came out December 15, and it was featured at the TED Gift Cave this year in TED, Vancouver.
Oh wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah, here in Vancouver.
That was last week.
So what are some of the major topics?
How did it get there? How did it get into the TED Gift Cave?
Yeah.
They emailed me and they said they'd love it in the gift cave. I was like, when I got the email from them, I could not talk for an hour, which is rare for me.
Yeah, I guess you would have got an email out of the blue, right?
Exactly.
Wow, that's amazing.
So where can people find out more about the book, or how can they find it and find out a little bit more about what you're doing? What are the best ways to read about Robin and what she's up to?
So I am the only Robin Farmanfarmaian in the entire world.
Really?
That's easy.
You sure?
There are 7 different ways right away that you can contact me. thepatientceo@gmail.com. I have a website, thepatientceo.com. You can get me through LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm prolific, and all of my posts are public, so you can find me there. My book is sold at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. So I would suggest just typing in The Patient as CEO, and you'll get a bunch of different places you can buy it, but just go straight to Amazon.
Perfect.
Cool. And what is the book? What is the book about?
Sure.
If you were to summarize it, what's the book about?
Beyond the CEO aspect that I've already talked to you about, which is, the underlying things are empowerment and courage, right? Strength and perseverance. But the content itself is about the convergence of accelerating technology, artificial intelligence, robotics, sensors, point-of-care diagnostics, 3D printing, using the power of the crowd, all leading to not just precision medicine, but truly personalized medicine. Now, when I say that, precision medicine is, a treatment plan based on the individual, including taking things like your genetic makeup into account. Well, I talk about it one step further. I always like to take things one step further. And truly personalized medicine, precision medicine, when you want it, where you want it, how you want it received. If you want to be in the middle of Africa with virtual reality and seeing your physician who's based in the United States getting robotic surgery with a robot machine, with sensors inside of your blood vessels doing continuous monitoring, and your medication being delivered by drones, that is your choice, right?
Cool.
Or if you just want to, yeah, exactly.
It's the dream.
Exactly. So it's truly personalized medicine.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. What about, okay, so before we let you go, give us maybe if you haven't, as a futurist, maybe 3 things, maybe 5 things, maybe just one thing where you can sort of blow someone's mind that this is not so far away, in terms of medical advancement. Do you have anything in the pipeline that you could throw our way?
Are you serious? I have 5,000 ideas.
Go with 5. Let's go with 5.
The first one that usually blows people's minds, of course, beyond the 3D printing of organs, is brain-computer interfaces. So imagine a world, if you're an amputee, and we can already do this. There's a robotic arm out of DECA, and there are some universities and companies working on brain-computer interfaces. So you can take this robotic arm from DECA, put it on, and control it by thinking. Right? It's mind-blowing. And let me tell you where this technology is. So the University of Washington originally was starting to develop the brain-to-brain interfaces, which means they put on this little thing on their head. One of the colleagues went across the room, or I think actually in a different building for this particular test. This even happened a couple years ago. And one scientist was able to move the other scientist's fingers from a different building by using his thoughts.
What? I've never heard of anything like that.
This has been done. They did it also with a rat. So they anesthetized a rat so the rat wasn't moving at all. Scientists put on the brain-computer interface, one on the rat, and they were able to move the rat's tail. It's like
a futuristic voodoo doll machine.
It sounds, yeah. The implications of that are terrifying me, but are also very exciting.
Exactly.
Cool. Yeah.
But take it one step further for a healthy person. You can do the thing with the robotic arms or robotic legs. And again, you're not limited to the human form. So if you have a robotic arm, why would you go like this, right? Why would you not go 360 degrees around? Right? Why be limited to the human form? Maybe your arm can extend to be 7 times longer than it really is, right?
Inspector Gadget. Exactly. That was the future.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But take it one step further for a healthy person. Maybe you are a chef, or you're working in a factory, or you just have a lot of kids and are very, very busy. Maybe you strap on 2 extra arms.
Exactly.
Why is that not a possibility? Why not have 4 arms all controlled by thinking?
All I keep thinking about is superheroes. So that's Dr. Octopus.
Yeah, that's what I was
Spider-Man. Yeah, every single time that's coming, Fantastic Four, Stretch Man. I've got it.
It honestly sounds like science fiction. It's crazy that these things are actually being done.
Okay, so there's one. Let's go for 2 more. What else do we have?
Even one more with
that. Wait, one more step further. We like going one step further.
Imagine you are on the couch watching your favorite football game, or Scandal in my case, or something like that, and I'm too lazy to get off the couch to go get myself a glass of water or make a pizza. Imagine me putting on my brain-computer interface and controlling a home robot to do that for me.
That's cool. And I guess because you would just think that you'd have to control the robot by a controller, right? Like you would think that way. But what you're saying is just throw on the gadget, the brain-computer interface, and be like, yeah, okay, bring it.
Maybe it's just permanently implanted in your brain.
Wow.
And so I guess they would have to figure out a way for you to be able to switch your mind frame and be like, okay, now I'm controlling the robot versus it would be hard. I guess you'd have to train your mind to do that, but it's
I'm not sure you would. So, they're doing that already with arms, right? With robotic arms. And there are videos, if you Google it, you can see people controlling their own robotic arms with a brain-computer interface. With very little training, as far as I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, so let's
Second
see.
one.
Another one. This is a really cool project. There is a company, I think it's a university actually, working on paralyzed people with sensors on the muscles, right? And so you think, and it sends a signal to the muscle, that an electric signal, and you actually start walking.
That's fascinating.
Right? That one, they did it with a study of one person, and it was successful. It took about 2 or 3 months of training, but can you imagine just some sensors that would actually make your muscles start working, right? Bypassing that whole spinal injury thing.
I mean, like with the advancements in technology, it's almost like you can't be beat. If you know, we're 5-10 years down the road, it's like you get a severe car accident or something like that, or maybe you're born with something. With the advancements in technology, like maybe, and that's probably why you're so passionate about it, is like, you, as the patient, as the CEO, you might have the choice, always have the choice.
Yeah.
You have the choice. But, you know, as the patient, as CEO, you really need to understand what's out there. And that's one of my biggest messages. It's all about knowledge and information. Because if you have that information, you can go build the right team of healthcare professionals that will get you to your goals.
Right.
Right?
Number 3, last one. What do you got? What do you got?
Oh, let's see. Good one. That's mind-blowing. Could you imagine completely replacing your physician with an artificial intelligence unit?
This is the thing. I mean, we've seen some surgeons, like there's been advancements on surgeons where it's a robotic arm that will place like to the actual precision point. I've seen that. But like completely replacing it with an artificial intelligence robot, I don't know. Like that would be pretty wild. Is that? Do you think is that something you see?
Does that include diagnosis as well?
That's the biggest part is the diagnostics. So the majority of diagnostics now are done by a basic blood test, right? They're not utilizing things like big data and being able to understand predictive analytics or early onset diagnostics using things like genetics. Because there is such a massive amount of data out there. In 1970, there were 10 subspecialties for physicians. Now there's over 170. Can you imagine a world where the physician actually is able to keep up with their individual silos, let alone the global view of medicine? So that's when you need to add in the artificial intelligence component. And IBM Watson is one of the companies really leading the way in AI as specifically applied to medicine. Of course, Google has a huge artificial intelligence division as well. But I like to look at IBM Watson because they're doing so many partnerships. So and right now what we can do is diagnostics for the physician using AI, and not only will it give you the top 3 probabilities of a diagnosis, but it gives you the evidence trail behind it, which is actually just as important for a physician. So imagine going and waking up in the morning and seeing your AI physician on your phone. Like, wow. You could check in every single day if you wanted to. And if you do want to see a human physician still, they could be there more for the hands-on, the bedside manner, the yes, I care about you.
Emotional support. Yeah.
Emotional side, right? Yeah. Versus some of the cut and dried, this is the data, these are the symptoms, and here are the matches.
Okay. It's great to know that Watson is not only defeating people at Jeopardy, but he's also advancing the medical field. It's great to hear. Yeah.
Well, that's exciting. So, thank you so much for joining us on the show and sharing some of the future. I mean, we're excited. I hope our viewers get excited.
Can only imagine the possibilities.
Once again, where can we find you? The book is?
The book is on Amazon called The Patient as CEO. I am Robin Farmanfarmaian, the only one on the world. I'm very prolific on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. So go ahead and go find me on those 3 things.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's Friday, Spotlight. Thank you so much, Robin Farmanfarmaian. I couldn't get it the second time. Farmanfarmaian.
There you go.
Farmanfarmaian. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next week on the Big Game Hunters. Cheers.
Thank you.